Welcome to Popcorn Planet.
What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. Today's going to be a bit of a heavy start to the show, but I felt like something important I wanted to talk about. We're going to have your calls come in for later in the show. You guys will be able to actually call in and talk about this with us. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to have a bit of a town hall today, sort of get your thoughts on things as we go through this really heavy story that's coming out of Michigan with the shooting. There are now four of his classmates. He killed 4 and wounded 7 others. And it's a really, really tragic story that I want to break down because it kind of broke me today when I saw a particular clip of the accuser that we have now. And I want to just go through it all with you guys. So thank you for bearing with me as we get everybody in the building and starting. I know I'm a little late today, but thank you for always bearing with me on Andy time. But I'm excited because for the beginning portion of the show, we got a special guest today, and I'm happy to have him here because he's going to offer his own insight on this topic because I want to get somebody. And I'm happy to introduce Sean Collinson to everybody. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing well, Andy. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
I'm glad we got to finally get you on here. I think the audience is going to be very impressed by you. I've had you've been on the channel, Hugging the Cactus, a couple times. We had some good conversations before, and I've been waiting to try and get you on here, and so I'm glad your schedule was available to pop you on because this is a tough one, and I know your main, just to fill in people what you do, your main job is you're a mediator for people. You get people through a lot of nasty custodies and everything else that you do, and that's sort of what you're known around in LA where you work. And you're a real deal professional doing this out there with celebrities and stuff. I don't want to get into it, but you're a professional is the bottom line here. And you deal with sort of mediating a lot of the toughest scenarios that people go through. Can you sort of just introduce, just so people know where you're coming from, where your background is, can you fill people in on what you do?
Absolutely. No, I do high conflict, high emotional family law mediation, right? So it almost seems like I'm called in as sort of the fixer, right? Things are just going crazy, and people, everyone has, different feelings and emotions about how they deal with breaking up. It's just relationship 101 that I'm the negotiator, the mediator, and then there's children involved in, right? So they put all this baggage over to the kids, and the kids oftentimes bear the toxic relationship residual components of the parents. And so my thing is, don't get your kids involved no matter what's going on. Don't use them as messengers. Definitely, don't leave guns around the house or purchase weapons and introduce, firearms that are not, in protected custody in your home with gun safes. Make sure you have all these things in place. And it seems like people are just radical. They're just the Wild Wild West. We'll do whatever we want to do. So I think that sometimes even when I'm doing an intervention, when, talking someone off the ledge, I think that that's the gift. And I bring that to the table. I've been doing it for 18 years and you know how it goes. So I'm glad to be a part of something that's a lot more heartfelt today. I think I can add some things for you.
Yeah, no, I know you're not a doctor and lawyer, but in that way, but so it's like we're offering our opinions here, but you have a lot of crisis sort of prevention and high conflict expertise with parents and kids, and I thought you could offer some really good, interesting insight here and I want to get sort of right to it. This story just hit me. I mean, we've had this story happen way too many times. This story in these schools and what's happening and the thoughts and prayers, it's too much. It's too often. And I'm not here I don't want to get into the whole gun control debate, Second Amendment. That's not what this show's about. To me, there's an in-between place that I think more gun owners need to get to. And I think more gun owners need to start seeing what's happening and being like, all right, I guess they're right. We need to do something more drastic. It's not about taking them all away, in my opinion. It's about figuring out how to better handle the ones that are there. How do we make sure they're harder to get for people in the future? There's just ways that I feel like, and I know a lot of good gun owners here in Florida who are all for it. Like the problem is there's a lot of extremism and a lot of media out there that sort of scares everybody about it. But I don't want to get caught up in that part of this debate because I think that's just it's politics. It gets annoying, but that's just, where I stand on that issue because it's hard to not mention that when we're going there. But what I really want to focus on is this kid. And when we found out who did this, for those of you who are unaware, in Michigan, this happened at a school. He killed 4 people with a semi-automatic pistol. He just went in, pretended to be a sheriff, and killed 4 of his classmates, wounded 7 others. Apparently, allegedly had 2 other clips before he was stopped, so they suspect he was going to do more. And as more sort of stumbled back, as we find more about sort of who this kid was and what was happening, you know, lots of displayed behavior in the classroom that was concerning. Apparently, they were speaking to his parents the morning of, worried about sort of something like this potentially happening, given some of the things that they had. And I want to go through all this because, look, I've been a kid at school. I made gory drawings in school, Sean. Like the teacher called my parents once to sort of be like, is Andy okay? For me, it was because I liked Itchy and Scratchy on The Simpsons, and it was easy to draw cartoon hearts. Like I do think that sometimes a kid drawing doesn't necessarily mean the worst, but you know, good for a teacher to attempt to, I think, ask and check in with the parents. It's a good thing to do. That to me, the all wearing all black and doing that's not always the issue, but what is the issue is really what's happening. Because when I saw this kid and I watched this, I think a lot of people were just angry. We're saying this kid's, you know, all these things. But then I stumbled upon this one, man, and it broke me this morning. This is the video that this Ethan Crumbley, who's the kid who did it, posted on October 2016, and I want to play you for a bit. But this video broke me down because I saw my son in this video. I see so many kids in this video of people who just want to be YouTubers, who want to be out there, like and subscribe to my video. I know a lot of parents are watching. And I know I can't be the only parent that like their kid now looks up and wants to do this. And when I watch this video, it breaks my heart because I see so many kids here. What happened 5 years later to warrant this kid to move from this to that? And I want to play this so you guys sort of see this and you can maybe understand where my emotions coming from and why I wanted to have this sort of town hall discussion. But let me play a little bit of this.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Ethan here. I'm actually very excited. So just like a couple minutes ago, I got a new channel. So we have my Santa Finder Ethan channel, the one I'm video on here right now, and then I started a new channel, which is Santa Finder's Vlogs. It doesn't have any videos uploaded on it, but I'm pretty sure I might get a video tonight or tomorrow on my vlogs. It's just a channel all about vlogs, so. Okay, so it's just a channel about vlogs, like nothing else but vlogs, like probably where I do what I talked about in the last recent video. So that channel is just basically vlogs. It's still maybe in progress, I'm not fully sure. There's a little picture I've taken for the cover screen.
I've seen hundreds, thousands of videos like this, Sean. Parents every day of their kids wanting to go on YouTube. I watched this video of this sweet, innocent little kid. It breaks my heart. Like when I see this and it normalizes what's going on, it's like it's so easy to vilify this kid and be like, but I immediately, my heart feels pain. Like I watch this, I see my own kid in a way. I see so many kids.
Right.
How does it go from this? Like there's an obsession online and media. I know we have to talk about that. We have to talk about where the hell were the parents? All this stuff. But to go from here to here is so chilling and sad, and I want to go on my own rants too. But Sean, what are your instincts on this when you see that?
So I just wanted to be clear that my perspective today comes from a parent, comes from a layman person that happens to be a dad. I have an 8-year-old son, and he's in elementary school. And just yesterday, I was working during the day. And around 12:30, I have the school's phone number programmed in my phone. And I always dread in the middle of the day, I'm going to get a phone call from school. And so you don't have to be a doctor or a lawyer to have this feeling, but you know, it's 12:30, it's lunchtime. And then when I see my phone ring and it's the school, I'm thinking, okay, I almost like I don't want to answer it, but I know I have to. So I pick it up. It was the principal. And she said, hey, just wanted to let you know. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, what do you want to let me know? Because you shouldn't be calling me. So I'm having this anxiety. And she tells me, you know, he got in a fight with another kid while they were playing handball. And the kid drew blood, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, who drew blood? She's like, well, your kid was bleeding. And then it came down to there was just a scratch on his arm. But as every parent can identify with what I'm saying and relate to, is that when we send our kids to school, we want to send them into a safe place. We are by default accessing a safe environment. And when we drop them off, my heart goes out to these parents of the kids that died, because I've never really dropped my son off at school and drove off thinking, could this be the last day I see my kid? But is that a reality in America? And shit, it scares the shit out of me. So when I, do a deeper dive and I start to think, how do we protect our kids? Because as parents, that's all we live to do. And then later on, I did a little bit more unpacking of what happened with my kid yesterday. And I realized that the kid that instigated the little fight with my kid was defending himself, but this kid has been problematic, and the shit that he does, I'm not sure what the consequences have been to sort of be a deterrent, because this little kid does weird stuff. And like, what's happening with the parents? And why is it always my kid that so what happens the day that kid decides that he's bringing a gun, or is it so I'm like freaked out by the whole story, because all I'm trying to do as a parent, and I'm sure every other parent is trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do. And I'm sorry, I'm emotional, but I just want to protect my kid and send them to a safe environment. So I need to know, how does that work, that we have a kid on YouTube that looks around 7 or 8, same age as my kid, and then years later, he's a murderer, has ideology of killing classmates. We missed something along the way. Something's missed. So all of these principals, school boards, yard attendants, when these kids are acting out and doing weird shit, we don't brush it to the side. And then, like you said, you were doing a drawing, and then, people are thinking you're weird. Calling home on a drawing? Call home when kids are drawing blood. Suspend their little asses for 5 days. Get their parents in the office. We have to be a little bit more, I think, we can't allow it to happen. When I drop my kid off, I'm sending them to a safe environment, period. Period, man. That's just it for me. My comments are going to be crazy.
I felt that same way when my kid came home and told me about the shooter drill that they have to do. I mean, when I was a kid, we had a fire drill, right? And nowadays, there's like 4 separate drills that kids have to do in these schools to prepare and feel safe. He told me about I've learned, and he's sort of, I guess I'm like, that makes me feel better in this weird way, but also just tremendously sad of him describing how to climb out the window and what fence they have to, jump over in the case of a tragedy. It's like, well, at least they're preparing, right? Which is like, yeah, but the fact that why do we at this point where we even have to prepare? This wasn't the way for a long time. I hate to be like when I was in my day, but how has it gotten to this point where the right to bear 100 arms in my home against 2 is more important than let's scale it down a bit to protect our kids. Like that to me is where this ultimately comes. And when I see this kid and a lot of people are like, is this the same kid in the thumbnail? Yes. I wanted to do that on purpose because I think it's really imperative that we see. It's easy to like vilify and just, I want to give this attention because this kid's everybody, man. This kid's every kid. When you watch this kid was a normal kid who wanted to be on YouTube, wanted the same things that my kid and so many of you kids want to watch. What the hell happened? And I imagine it was bullying. I no doubt there was some bullying in this school. And you're right, Sean. Like schools don't even know how to address it anymore. It's such a weird thing. But what happens when you do send the kid home that drew blood? He's going to go back to his parents, who are probably shitty parents, who aren't paying attention, who aren't even there for them. It's what do we do as the parents who do the work and who care to try to like look out for these kids and make sure that we're getting the bullies in our classes to get actual repercussions is really where this gets scary for me.
Right. Parents all over America, all over the world should be alarmed. This James kid is every kid, right? This is every kid's aspirations to be an influence on YouTube, which I don't think has anything to do with it. I think that it starts in the home. Definitely on a program that we were doing called Pop Protocol. We set up a thing where we wanted to teach young kids and educate them about having respect on both sides of the badge. Meaning that if you were, let's say, a teenager just starting to drive and you were pulled over, how you're supposed to act or behave when you come in contact with a law enforcement officer. And what we did was we did this survey and we spoke to kids around 10 years old in hot spots in Los Angeles, Compton, Watts, South Central. And the through line narrative was cops kill people. Like, where'd you get that from? Like, that's not on any cartoons. And so what we ultimately, as we unpacked it, what we realized was the parents were telling the kids, screw the police. So the kids only take out in the street what it starts at home, period. You can think they get it from friends. You can think they get it from their cousins. You can think they get it from somewhere strange. It starts in the home. Period. Now, there's two kinds of parents. It's the parents that may be rambunctious and, talking crazy to the kids and watching crazy things on television that they have a perception that's real, and then it translates to the kid. However, there's another parent that's the absentee parent that left it up to the television and the outside forces to influence the kid. So now everyone will draw the line on this particular case that we're discussing, that it's mental illness. Mental illness may be the escape, though, because that seems to be easy. Let's just put it in a category. Let's box it up nice. However, 4 to 5 kids died by the hands of this assailant that they're charging as an adult. So what is more important is when it initially starts in the home and it gets to the classroom, what are the other safeguards that we have in place? And I think that needs to be taken far more seriously. Just like yesterday, when I got the call, it was kind of flimsy, like, it was like this theatrical thing. I was only thinking, like, what are you going to do to the kid that drew blood on my kid? And I never probably will know the consequences because they have some stupid rule that I don't need. It's confidential on what procedures they use. Well, that's nice because it doesn't sound like you sent the kid home or gave him a suspension. But his parents, it needs to be a stern warning that it's not tolerated to draw blood. And then you have this kid, he's always mixed up in something. So it pisses me off as a parent that I send my kid to school to be in a safe environment. And I know that I'm emotional and this was a show.
The bullying is so what's happening, because I see a debate in the
bullying is bullshit.
It's total bullshit, and it's happening way too much. But it's also like, there's so much. The schools are the funding, the pandemic. Schools are a mess right now. Let's also be fair. It's tough for the teachers right now. I do hear that as well. But the other debate I see in there is like, well, Andy, he's not every kid, and I want to challenge that. To me, for my opinion, we all can have different opinions. I do believe kids raised correctly, even whether they have emotional distress or evil, whatever you want to call it in them that maybe caused this to happen, I believe it starts at home. If you have good parents and you have help and you're able to raise this kid right and a support system of love, I firmly, personally believe that this can be avoided. To me, this is an act out of something else. Something else is wrong in this kid's house, in his home, in his personal life. This is an act of attention. He's not getting it elsewhere. It's because it's someone else affected it. And so when everybody out there yelling, saying, this kid's a psycho, and he's not, like, you are being delusional. This kid's a normal kid right here. You can see it. And clearly, what I mean, I don't want to say I don't know. Maybe there's more emotional distress, whatever. Yeah. But my point is, there seems to be hope for this kid here when I watch this, right? Or you don't. What do you have? Please challenge me. What do you think?
I'm not going,
Andy. Even in 2016,
I'm not giving him normal. I'm not giving any hope. I'm giving none of that. The father purchased the gun.
No. I'm saying when you watch this video right here in 2016,
I don't care about that video anymore, due to the fact that this escalated to the death of a high school football star with a promising career innocent people died. There is no normalcy involved, period. The dad purchased that gun within 72 hours. This firearm ended up in the hands of this young man. And now there's a tragedy, multiple tragedies involved. There is no pass. I don't have any sympathy for that, period. It's bullshit. Bullying has to stop. We have to have more attention on that. I was bullied as a kid in school. Every day after junior high school, I had to go out in this alley and fight this one kid, Robert. Sorry if your name's Robert, but it was always a problem until the final day. I just got up enough courage and I whipped his ass. After that, it stopped. So yesterday when I spoke to the principal that called me and she said, your son is okay, but your son did defend himself. And automatically to myself, I said, you know what? I'm glad he did that. But she went on further to say that had this had been a middle school issue with seventh or eighth, middle school, they both would have been expelled. How in the hell does my kid get expelled in middle school for defending himself from someone that drew blood? The rules are bullshit. Maybe I should run for school board president.
I think you should.
Because I'm going to change that rule.
We are on the same wave.
Kids should be able to defend themselves.
There's no
bullshit
excuse
against bullies. Bullies, bullshit.
There's no excuse for bullying. It's absolute bullshit what happened here, and I want to get to the parents and the responsibility. Like this, please don't misquote me because I support everything you just said. You're
Nothing's
spot on.
Normal.
But I'm going to challenge you again is I want to know why this happened. And when I say this kid seems normal, to me, it's like, what happened in this 5 years? Is it the gun control? Is it bad parenting?
No,
is because
that's nothing to do.
evil?
Dude, it was the gun control from the dad. The dad has gun control laws are just set up to govern.
What put in his head that it was okay to cross this and kill somebody? Where did beyond even the gun control issue, how does a kid who looks like this,
Second Amendment.
But how do these kids want to get to the thought process where it's like, I'm going to go murder students?
All right. Gun control laws are set up to govern a body of individuals that are entitled to a certain rights under the Constitution. So we keep getting the Constitution really cloudy and it goes all over the place. It's set up to govern. Now, if we're talking about gun control, that would come down to dad purchasing a gun 72 hours earlier and then making the firearm accessible to a 15-year-old. If gun control failed, it failed in the home.
Right, and allowing the kid to post it on Instagram, let's not forget also. The parents need to be tried. I blame
who poses with a gun?
But that's where I'm at. Like I blame the parents more than I blame this kid, Sean.
Yes,
that's where my problem is. And you're saying we're all arguing about this kid. He's not blah blah blah. But my issue is like these parents are the real problem here. These parents are probably where this all stemmed from. These parents are why this kid became not normal. When I see this kid, I do have empathy for this young boy because I'm like, this boy's life was robbed of any normalcy, of any sanity, of any moral compass or compassion or empathy. How did this go wrong? How did we fail this kid? And I'm 100% sharing your passion on these parents, which, by the way, we have a lot of intel on these parents. These parents better get tried and be paraded around as the example because what they did is abhorrent and unforgivable.
They did not give their kid a chance, right? As soon as they made the firearm, but you have to take this, you have to go do it, you have to unpackage this a little deeper. This didn't start with the gun 72 hours ago. This started with journaling. This started with weird things in school, in class. This started with what was the communication between the school and the parents. But then when the communication may or may not have occurred, because we don't know, but what did the parents do with the information that they incurred from the school? So this comes down. So I'm glad if this was Let's Make a Deal, you get a free trip to the Bahamas because you get that it started at home, right? So that is the origin of the problem. So parents, good, bad, doesn't matter. We have to make sure that our kids are in a safe, when we send them to school, we have by default assumed that is a safe haven. When my 8-year-old said to me that he did a shooter drill in school, I was happy that they were doing it because it needs to be done.
Yeah.
It needs to be done. If we go back and we just unpack it from years ago, if classrooms are not doing that and these kids are shot and unprepared, that would be horrible. So I was actually thinking to myself, like, I know it's strange that an 8-year-old is talking about, I've never done a shooter drill. I've never done a shooter drill.
Me neither.
Have you ever done a shooter drill?
No, it's new. It's
I would like
new.
to know how many people is, I want to know what, if I wanted to get information about a shooter drill, I'd have to ask an 8-year-old. Like, what do you do in a shooter drill? So he was saying we get down and then we go into the table. My teacher says, be quiet, don't move. But my kid is so, outspoken. I'm wondering if the shooter said with the gun, who wants to see the gun? He'd probably be like, I want to see it. Like, dude, put your hand down, put your hand down. But on a serious note, there's no normalcy. There's no aha moment here. There's no hope. The parents, this was a misguided child by two parents that didn't give a shit about anyone else. This kid accessing the gun is deplorable. There should be charges. I'm sure and I hope that our legal system, I'm one person that is a part of it. It is not perfect by no means, but this district attorney, the prosecutor said it's not even close. The parents are going to have some culpability involved with this. And that's the way it should play out, because we do have to send a stern message to parents that get it wrong, because our kids, not my kid, our kids go to school with some of these kids for the parents that get it wrong.
Yeah, it's weird. And there's a I want to just because I got to let you go, but before we go there, the stepbrother is out there saying he was a happy kid who was not bullied. Sudden decision. He was again, this is coming from his stepbrother, but he was a average happy kid who secured good grades in his class, enjoyed Minecraft like normal teenager. He also stated Ethan was not the victim of bullying as a child, contrary to popular beliefs. I mean, who knows if that's true? Was he really there all the time? Sometimes these kids can go through a lot without it actually being seen, but it is weird seeing this sort of narrative go out there. And he seemed like an average kid is sort of whatever. It is always sort of is the MO, right? When this happens, who would have known that my neighbor was a serial killer is sort of the vibe that always comes forward. But as we wrap up your portion, because I know you got to go, what is your takeaway? What is your suggestion for us as parents? What do we do? I mean, you're right. When we complain to the schools, the idea that the kid defending himself is expelled along with the instigator is really terrifying. They're trying to deter like any sort of fighting at all. But I wholeheartedly support your desire, Cobra Kai, right? Strike back, strike first. They do, but no murder. Like there is a little bit of that attitude of like, no, kids are too weak and soft, and if someone's going to come at me, you better defend yourself and punch back so they don't come do it again. Right. There is a mentality there that I think we're not allowed to tell our kids anymore as parents, Sean. So what do we do when we're worried? What is your advice? What are your final thoughts on this topic?
Well, one thing that I have realized as a parent is you only can do your part, right? So, however, when they're having PTA meetings, if parents can go to anything to participate and be an active and present parent and a part of the school meetings, having a voice, use your voice. Do not assume that you've driven off or drove off from the campus when you dropped your kid off, that it's a safe environment, that it was a safe haven. There's too much evidence that it is to the contrary, it is not. So we have to be actively involved with the school board, with the principal, PTA meetings. We have to know who's on first, who's on second, and use your words. We have a right to know who are the kids in school that are acting out, what are the procedures that you're taking to talk about this. And in all fairness, I do want to say one thing about yesterday with the principal. She did allude to that there's a child counselor on campus, and that they were going to have the kids speak with the child counselor. Now, the one thing that I do know about when you speak to a counselor is that becomes confidential, right? No one gets to, whoa, that's in the dark room. No one gets to know. But also, is that a way to isolate the active parents from knowing what's going on, because now it's protected under some law that says now I can't know what you did to the kid. So what if you gave him a slap on her and then so I'm just beside myself. But it did when I hung up that phone, I just knew that was a red alert. Sean, go into DEFCON 4, make sure you're at the board meetings, the PTA meetings, the school meetings. You have to be an active participant, or it will be tough to complain if there's an active shooter at the school and I knew nothing about it. So I want to be involved. That would be my advice to all parents. As a co-parent, as a parent, you have to be involved and you have to really cross those T's. There's no default. I don't know if driving off to work that day is more important, if you couldn't stay for 15 minutes for the assembly, but you know what? You'll never understand that work was never more important than to get that phone call that those parents got yesterday.
Right. And I well said. And I think it's also, you got to really listen to your kids. You got to have those conversations. I think far too many parents aren't actually asking. It's, how was your day? And then you move on to the next thing. You got to ask more investing questions and get more involved in what's working on. Who are their friends? What's the assignment they're working on? Who is giving them trouble? Are they having a fight with their friends? If you aren't actually invested in knowing that information about your kid, you are part of the problem, because the kid's not getting what he or she needs, and listening to them and investing them and being there, giving them that attention and support as they find their way in these terrible man, I hated middle school. It was rough. Luckily I found an outlet in video and like excelled in like sort of the art class, but so many kids don't have that same luxury and are just stuck there, bullied or feeling out of place or insecure. It's a really rough time. And so we have to remember, like, look, I'll say it again, when I see this kid, I just get sad because I see a potential that was just wasted. And I see parents who just completely destroyed this poor kid's success in life and opportunity and compassion. It's just all went out the window because they weren't paying attention. They weren't being responsible parents. And it's heartbreaking when I see this. We can say he's not normal. Clearly it's not a normal thing to It's not even going there. Make that decision. I agree. I'm not trying to go there.
Not going there.
But I see this and I think a lot of parents can relate to this clip, and that's scary to think. So all kids that's just 5 years later, they're just going to snap. And I have to think there were events and parenting choices that really helped push this problem child into something entirely dangerous. That's just completely tragic, and why we lost those lives.
Tragic.
So it's a horrible thing, and I appreciate you bringing here, man. Sean, final word. Anything else you want to add?
Final word. At the end of the day, lives were lost due to this tragedy. And we just have to have condolences for those families. I cannot imagine what they're feeling today. But again, I think as life progresses and we have another day every day, we have to learn, not only learn from these situations, but we have to be proactive to try to avoid them. This is too close to home. This was a child. This was too close. And too close doesn't mean anything to any of these viewers watching right now. It doesn't mean anything until it hits your home. Everything I said could be like, screw that guy. But when it's personal to those families that are experiencing it, who just dropped their kid off that day and said, love you, have a nice day. Damn. So my heart goes out to those families. I'm Sean Collinson.
Yeah, I want to make sure you guys check out his YouTube channel here. I'll put the link in there. I would love to give him some support as he's getting out there. A lot of good advice for people going through divorce, and also just other things he's going to be posting there. He's a really smart guy. Love his insight, and I appreciate you being here, Sean. We're going to take calls next. If you're watching live, don't go anywhere. Thank you again for being here, Sean. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to clip this portion of the show. If you're watching live, stay tuned. We're going to take your calls. We've got some more stories to go through. Appreciate all you guys watching. Thanks for watching here on Popcorn Planet.